Okay, so sitting group. What kinds of things did you come up with? Oh, good. Show and tell. Show and tell. Ha ha ha. I put it back on the table. I'll go get it. No, sorry. Wait for the mic. Sorry. Narrator.
It's okay. Yes, well,
Okay. So now here you have a configuration, bottom on the floor, feet bent, the legs bent, feet standing, palms on the floor behind. Off you go. Oh, excellent. Do you think that's got anything to do with the limb configuration?
Maybe. And we had a discussion about being able to lift your bottom off the floor.
Yes.
With the hands, which you did backward. Your hands were back. Well, there was this one.
Yep.
Movement. And then we're lifting. It's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. And lifting, when you were lifting your bottom off, but it actually wasn't really a sitting position because it was actually lifting the weight of the bottom off the floor. Not in this movement, but when you were just actually...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there we go.
We were doing that, but we didn't, even though our body was actually in a sitting position,
mm-hmm.
It wasn't, we didn't think it was actually counted as sitting because it actually wasn't weight bearing, possibly on the hips.
Okay.
Mm. And then, yes, more demonstrations.
No, good. Different interpretations of the configuration.
And then the other one was sitting. Do you want to do the chair? And both feet and hands on the floor,
mm-hmm.
sitting on the chair.
Okay.
And the movement you could do on that. Sideways.
Yep, absolutely. So the best way to think about this is simply. So if you just ask yourself what is immediately available in this position, of course, lifting the bottom off the floor is immediately available because suddenly you have 4 props and 4 limbs ready to push. You can actually lift the bottom off the ground. You could go for a little walk like an inverted quadruped. Yeah, that's right. See?
Oh, that's sitting?
That's the starting position, and in this position, it affords the bum being lifted. Remember, what does this position afford in terms of movements and directions of movement in space? So this position affords the bum being lifted, or one cheek being lifted, and then the other cheek. Everything you showed, it affords all of that.
Also lying back with your arms back.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just like orientation positions, configurational constraints are also sometimes really important. Yeah. Another group, please. Tummies?
So the first thing actually that Narissa did when she was in this position was go forwards by pushing on her toes,
mm-hmm.
and back. And then pretty soon it went into the push-up, and we were talking about planking, and from here how you can go to the side.
Yep.
So you still use your rolling. You could still do side bending. We also found you could still crawl by using your toes in that bent position. Not easily, but you could.
Some kids do it really well.
And the backwards one that he just did then too. We discovered that you could go backwards. And I think, sorry, the first one too you did was the rocking, where it was just going forwards and backwards the other way. So, yeah.
Yeah, headwards, footwards, headwards, footwards. Yep.
Yeah. So from there, though, we found that you could probably still do most of the other things you could do when you were flat by going down, which we now had available.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah, from
that's
side
good.
to side.
That's great. Yep.
I think that's all.
So notice, the important thing to notice, as soon as there's a change in limb configuration, different things become possible. And that's learned by accident or by imitation, especially if kids have got siblings or very playful parents. Yeah, they can be learned by imitation, by accident, or if they're with a Feldenkrais practitioner, by intelligent design. Yeah. Please, another group. Actually, it goes beyond Feldenkrais practitioners. It goes to clinicians who are very clever at what they do, teachers who are very clever at what they do. Intelligent design.
So we were lying on our side with our elbow to the ground.
Yes. Please.
And so we decided that just being propped up on the elbow made a huge range of movement more possible, much easier to get off the ground than if you're lying fully on your side. And Liz was very good at demonstrating a huge range of movements, which I felt wasn't available to me. But it was really a very good lever just to start removing ourselves from the ground. And the point of where you've just got your elbow and your hip really placed on the ground meant that the underside of your body and the leg was much easier to move around.
So transitions from one body orientation to another, when you have a limb that's configured, it kind of says, oh, you can go around this way, you can go around that way, and so the transitions are different.
Yeah.
Great. Succinct. I like it. Don't give the microphone to me. Oh, don't be mean.
I don't know.
Come on.
The constraint was to have legs bent, feet on the floor, arms bent, hands on the floor. So we discovered there's two different sort of starting points for that. One's kind of that and one's kind of this.
Right.
Both afford different sort of manipulations and orientations into the space. But all in all, as a starting point, we thought this is actually it's a more restricted starting point than actually just lying flat on the floor, in terms of keeping those 4 cardinal points on the ground. So that was a bit depressing.
Oh.
But Anka is a very good model for what is available. And once again, we got into the deliberation of, okay, well, to what extent do we extend that out? Because as soon as you get a couple of movements away, then all of a sudden there's a whole lot possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then you get into another body orientation and another configuration. Yeah. So just like in linguistics, yes? In linguistics, they have this idea that we utter these sounds, we make these sounds. And some sounds in some languages become significant, like the difference between p and b. P, b. Yeah? Then they called morphemes, meaningful sounds. Same here. some of these positions are quite meaningful, but because they afford very distinct possibilities. And this is what Feldenkrais kind of grabbed upon. Each position affords some possibilities that are quite distinct from other positions. And sometimes, could you lie on your back, please? Lie with your arms beside you, with your legs long. Now, there's certain things available here. Now, just bend one leg and stand 1 foot on the floor. So this is already significantly different and allows different possibilities than both legs. So in terms of meaning, this is distinct from the other completely. Yeah? And you could do a whole set of movements in functional integration or awareness through movement from here, whereas having the legs long, you could not. So that's the thinking behind it. And so that's the thinking behind it, and it is slippery. And we do move from one to the other as in our own lives. But I heard some of you already say this, like when you're describing, oh, there are things that she can do that I can't. Well, yeah. Some positions, for some people, you can see the affordance for them. You can see, as I said, God, intelligent design. Yes, in a funny kind of a way, you have a God's perspective. You have a perspective outside of the person. And you can see the possibilities, but because of the person's history and what they have and have not done, in that position, could you get back in that position like this? Yes, they might be getting into that position, but they might have no idea that they can lift their pelvis from the floor. And for them, that does not afford lifting their pelvis from the floor for them. So they don't know that. But for you, from a God's perspective, from an outside perspective, you know that. So then how do you guide them towards that possibility? So you push a little bit with one hand, you stop, you push a little bit with the other hand, you stop, you push a little bit with one foot, you stop, you push a little bit with the other foot, you stop, you push with both hands, you stop, you push with both feet, you stop, you do diagonals, you stop. Can you see? And then eventually it dawns on them, oh, I can actually lift my pelvis. And it dawns on them. So you're just exploring the possibilities of that position with them. And then who in their right mind would ever think you could walk in that position? Could you lift your pelvis from the floor and go for a little bit of a walk, please? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So as a form of locomotion, who would think of that, right? Except for a baby that no one's told that they can't do it. So that's like the thinking behind it. When you play with this and look at lessons, if you just look at the lessons that you've done over the last year and look at them in this fashion, yeah, this whole set of patterns gets revealed to you. It's very interesting, very, very useful to do. Yeah? Okie dokie. Lunch. Let's come back at 1:30. Thank you very much.